Nice to see you, Isaac.
Nice to see you.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. So let's start this. You see, I'm happy to talk to you today. I was uh, I was intrigued when I saw your podcast. So I said, "Ooh, yeah, I like a young African doing something like I'm doing. So I really want to talk to you. So do this for me. Introduce yourself to my audience and tell them what you do."
Okay, my name is Isaac Kojo Aboah, and I'm a young entrepreneur. At least that's what I want to think I am.
Yes, yeah, you are.
And
You are.
Yeah, I think when I find it very difficult to describe myself because it's very difficult to, you know, meet new audiences and kind of condense the entirety of your life, which is basically who you are, right? Into a few lines. So it's a very difficult thing to do, but I would like to think that I'm somebody who is a thinking individual and I'm committed to solving problems. That's
Okay.
how I like to, in the framework of the conversation we have.
Yes.
Obviously, that doesn't do the good job of summarizing
Yeah.
the entirety of my
Don't
being.
worry. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Throughout this conversation, you need to describe yourself more as we talk about different things. See, yeah. I when I looked at your profile on LinkedIn, I saw that when you were in university, you started. You founded a startup. What was it about?
Actually, when I was in university, my LinkedIn profile has been unupdated for some time, so I have to work on that. But I started 3 companies in the university.
Wow.
That is very unlikely. Yeah, that's very unlikely for somebody from my background because when you hear me speak, when you hear me dare to do some of the things you do, you think, oh, this guy, he comes from a certain kind of family that allows you to do that. I don't. In fact, I come from the very opposite direction. But it just takes audacity, right? And a certain stubbornness to do some of the things that I think I dare to do. But yes, I did. I started 3 startups, companies, small companies on university. So I went for this program after the first year of my education in the university. And I was the youngest. I went for a lot of programs where I was the youngest. And in this program, we were basically helping other companies, right? So we were kind of business associates, business consultants for other companies. And it was a program funded by DFID, and it was started by Challenges Worldwide. So people from the UK came to Ghana and they partnered with us. They were usually students who were in their final years or master students. And I was a first year student at the time. And I was the only person involved. The other Ghanaians were all final year students, stuff like that. And I got to help a small business from the training I got. And I liked the experience. And I liked that I was thinking, I was like that I was being engaged. So I came up from that experience thinking, I'm going to start a business myself. So even though I had nothing, to be honest with you, I think that I wagered some of my my second year school fees, which was basically nothing, because for me, again, from the place I come from, getting the school fees usually even is a hassle. So it's a difficulty to do that. But I wagered part of it with my friend to start a smoothie business. And we sold smoothies and juices and popcorn at campus events. And I had never made a smoothie before. I didn't even know that. I didn't know what, I never knew how to make a smoothie. I never knew how to make a popcorn. I always tell people that I watch a 2-minute YouTube video and I started making the best popcorns on campus. That was it. And so it just drew me. And then I started a marketing communication company. And then my final year, we went into greenhouse farming and all of that. So yes, that's a little about
me. See,
on that.
That's fantastic. Well, I would like to correct something you said. You say from your background, entrepreneurs come from different background. In fact, the people who are comfortable in life, who has almost everything they want, don't start businesses. right? Most of the entrepreneurs are people from, let me use the word in quotes, somehow difficult backgrounds, where, because as an entrepreneur, you are solving a problem that people have. Okay. If you come from a privileged background, you don't see the problems that people have. Okay. So you most entrepreneurs solve problems that they have, that people they know have, that the community has. And then they say, okay, let me fix this. Let me look at it and fix it. And that's how they start. Okay. So most see, in the West, for example, if you look at the amount of entrepreneurs that people know, check them out. Okay. A lot of them are immigrants. Okay. Including Mr. Musks. Okay. He's an immigrant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, Elon Musk comes from. Yeah. So you see, I think that I agree with you to some part, but the truth is that even the most popularized of entrepreneurs that we see them, right? And we like to ascribe a certain kind of hardship to their backgrounds. But when you look into the lines, it's not always the same. It's not always the case.
No,
it's much more difficult. It's much more difficult doing, like, for example, while Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is one of my favorite entrepreneurs, while Elon Musk has struggled to build his business, because the truth is that just for the fact of going against the tide to build an electric car in the time that he did, right,
every entrepreneur struggle to build something. Even Mr. What's his name, Bezos, okay, to build what he has been a struggle. Okay.
Yes.
Now, maybe most of us who are outsiders, who have not been entrepreneurs, think, wow, he's so fabulous, because we only started hearing about him when he has made it. Okay. We never knew him when he was struggling. Okay. Even what's his name? Mr. Microsoft. Yes.
Yeah.
His parent was, one of his parents was a university professor, I think. But yes, he wasn't struggling, but he solved a problem that people in his community had.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Where I'm coming from is that the process of building a company, any company, and I think it's the reason why I kind of might be one of the most difficult things you can ever do in the world.
Yeah,
because
of course.
there's a certain kind of uncertainty around it. Usually when there's an amount of uncertainty in something, there is difficulty in predicting the rate of success. So, for example, there is not even replicability in entrepreneurship. For example, somebody can start a business today, succeed, and start a business tomorrow and fail, because in the dynamics of the two businesses, the formulas are not all the same. So it's a very difficult, and that I want to admit. But I'm just saying that the people that we put, right, it's beyond, for example, it's beyond just money, right? It's relationships, etc. Like, I'll come back to this maybe, but if we explore that, I came to London for the first time in 2019. I came for a global business competition. Before that, we had won a regional competition in Malaysia, all of that. We competed against students from Oxford and Harvard and all the best universities, and we were at the top. We were really among the best of them, right? And I came, and it changed my perspective. I was like, I want to move, and I want to do more, and I want to start a technology business. And I did start a technology business, even though I had nothing. But when it got to the time of fundraising for it, I didn't anticipate how difficult it's going to be. And the reason is, everybody finds it difficult to raise funds, but it's exceptionally difficult, right? If it's more difficult, and that's, I think, the fact, if you have nobody who has done it before that you ever know, you are not from a community of people who have done it before, or you don't know anybody that can recommend you, so you have to build it. Like, people for a very long time, and that's a good thing. That's something that's a burden I'm willing to take. I always tell people around me that I want to take the burden of working so hard so that I can build the reputational value that others can use, because I don't have that, right? I don't have the reputational value of, say, a work that a relative did, and then they can say, wow, your relative did this, and based on that. And that is very important. It's not even about just money or finances, right? So that makes it very difficult for someone who has none of these leverages, and leverage comes in different forms, from someone who has none of these leverages. Because I have studied a pattern to validate what I'm trying to say. Most people don't become billionaires from poor backgrounds, for example. It's a very difficult thing to do. Very, 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 very few people that I know in the top 100 of billionaires have done that. For most people, wealth building is a multi-generational process. So it is more easier for the first generation to move from, say, first generation that didn't have college education, to move from that stage into a few hundreds of thousands worth.
Okay, let me ask you if
white snap.
Okay, let me ask something.
Mm-hmm.
Musks, was his parents millionaires?
Yes. So Elon Musks' parents.
Hold on. They were millionaires? Just yes or no?
What?
Were they millionaires?
I can't say for a fact, but his parents owned emerald mines in South Africa. Those are that. Yeah. Owning a mining company.
Hold on. Yeah. So they're rich. Okay. His father was rich. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bezos, was it from a millionaire family?
I can't say for a certain, but I know that his parents give him $100,000.
Mr. Microsoft, was it from a wealthy family? I don't think
you are getting my point. See, if your parents are college professors and the other is in the medical profession, in the United States, even, you are in the top 15%, or you are probably in the top 20% of people who are doing well. If my point is that it's difficult, for example, if you are among the bottom 5%, it's just a thing. It's difficult for somebody who grew up in a rural place in Rwanda to be able to succeed. It's just the fact of life. That's what I think, though.
Well, see, I agree that success in entrepreneurship is difficult, and it should be, okay? Mm-hmm. Because you are trying to solve a problem that has been there that nobody else has solved, okay? So the solution cannot be so easy, otherwise the rest of the people must have been so dumb that they couldn't solve it. Okay. Isaac, that's it. See, and that's why people who can solve problems, we applaud them. Okay. Now, for me and for you, we want young Africans to start looking to solve our problems, no matter how hard it is. We need to do it. All right. It doesn't matter how hard it is. We need to do it. Doesn't matter if you live in a village, okay, in your community, in your village, there are problems that only you who knows the problems can attempt to solve it. Now, yes, you need to, it's good if you know how to collaborate, right? Maybe you are in the village, you want to solve a problem that affects the village and 2 or 3 other villages around you. You provide a solution and you need help, and you talk to your cousin in the city who know 1 or 2 people. See, it's all about collaboration. Okay. So I want to encourage young people who are problem solvers. That's why I'm so happy that you are. Okay. But I want you to take it as a challenge, right? No matter how difficult it is. See, it's the difficulty that when you finally succeed will carry you above the shoulder that, hey, Isaac did it. So that's it, you know?
So I mean, I agree with your perspective around that. And I think,
yeah. So Isaac, so you host the Change Africa podcast, right?
Yes.
Tell my audience about it. Why a podcast in the first place? The focus focus is on Africa, on changing Africa. What do you discuss on the podcast? Do you have guests? You know, tell us about it. Tell us about it as much as possible.
So I like to say that fundamentally I'm a conversationalist, and I like exploring ideas. I like argument. Many people have a very different perception of what argument is. They think that to say that you like arguments means that you are a rabble rouser, you like to cause chaos. But fundamentally, argument is the foundation of thinking. If you're going to take a decision, you argue with yourself first before you even take it. This is like, if you can't argue, you can't think. That's what my perspective of life is.
I agree with you.
I always want to be thinking, and that involves arguing. Like if you go to a philosophy class, the process of thinking is all argumentation. They teach you those foundations and those thought pieces. And so
logic.
I am that person. Yeah, I'm one person who can say that I like that process of engaging myself in reasoning and thought. And you can't do that alone. It is more successful when you have other people who you can think with, who you can ask questions with. So I say that doing a podcast is an extension of that argumentative, conversationalist self of mine. And I am interested in knowing people, knowing their thoughts, knowing their opinions, and knowing how they are succeeded in solving problems, because that is what education is, right? If you go back to the stats of civilization as we know of it, the people who built the foundation of thoughts and reason, the Socrates, Aristotle, they were not in institutionalized academies like schools that we had right now, like not in the form that we see it, right? They were in sort of mentorship groups where this person stayed under the wings of that person, and they talked with them. Even if you are a Christian, for example, you can see that what we see in the Bible as Jesus and his disciple and fellowship is basically one person and a bunch of people following him and asking questions. So if we think about it that way, what we are doing is just more than some people just talking. It's really an education that we are given, at least if you are intentful about it that way. And so that's how I think about that. And that's what the podcast seems to do, right? To educate people through the basic framework of conversations. And why Africa? Obviously, because I'm very passionate about it. I feel like we are blessed in a continent that has a lot of resources. Obviously, has its challenges. And so we have to find ways of doing that. My perspective on the conversation on Africa is, do we have people who have already succeeded in doing some things? And how do we tell their stories? And how do we move away from just the hero play game, but actually go into the insight of their lives, the decisions they make, how they think about the current problems that we have, what they are doing about it, what is happening in those frameworks, what can we do better, and kind of dissect the fields and industries they are and bring that to the fore. So that is what the podcast really is about. So it's a 1 hour conversation style podcast with myself and my co-host Daniel, and we bring guests on the podcast across the intersection of business, leadership, culture, arts, and we just dissect their thinking, their mindset, and how they are contributing to the growth of Africa.
Wow. Isaac, I see me smiling. I love what you just told me. You say, yes. One of the things a lot of us don't like is a debate. Okay. A lot of us do not like a debate. And following my many debates, I found out that people think a debate is about one group shouting at the other group and the other group shouting back. No, that's not a debate. No. A debate is you telling your side of an issue and the other tell their own side of the issue to help you come up with a common understanding of the issue. And because of that misinterpretation of what a debate is, we are not taking advantage of our knowledge, our common knowledge. Exactly. Because many of us are so don't even want a debate. Okay. See, I like the fact that you are very interested in doing this. And I think it's something we need to help young people to understand that this is fundamental to the development of Africa. Because, like you said, argument with yourself helps you to clarify your own thoughts.
Exactly.
Okay. And for me, I do a lot of debate with myself, a lot. And in the last 10 years, there's so many positions in life that I have today that are totally different 10 years ago. Okay. But I was fortunate to have time on my hand to stay alone in my room for a long time, for so many years, debating so many issues with myself. And now I'm out and I want to debate those same issues with other people.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is fantastic. And I think we need to bring other people to the forum. You know, unfortunately, yes, after we talk to ourselves, we also need to get more information from people who know more on this matter. And many of them have written books. So we need to read those books to update our own knowledge and then re-debate the issue with ourselves and then debate those issues with other people. Now, unfortunately, we as Africans, we don't read.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
I think you bring up a very good point about reading, because I always say this, that to have any kind of success in life, I fundamentally think that there are three things that you need to be good at. You need to be able to read, you need to be able to speak well, and you need to be able to write well. And all of those three things, they build the foundations of thought. Like you just said, reading allows you to accumulate knowledge that has been passed on over time, and other people's worldview and thoughts. So reading can be a medium of travel, for example. For a very long time before I traveled, right, I knew a lot of things about different parts of the world because I was actively engaged in the frameworks and the thoughts and thinking of other people that are in different places. So travel, not even in the geographical sense, but in a lot of different ways, right? You get to travel in the thought space of other people, which is a very beautiful experience. Then thinking coming to the ability to write. Because when you are writing, right, one of the things that writing is a very interesting thing about writing is that writing gives you the pause. It gives you the pause to be able to gather your thoughts. And so, for example, if you're somebody who writes, you realize that you don't go as fast in writing as you would in your normal thoughts. That is you pausing to see what is happening here. And even if you took time to rush through it, when you are reading it again, you get to re-argue with yourself and you see that. And so it's a very, very important skill. And then obviously it comes to the ability to communicate those things that you have read and written to other people, which it comes in speaking. So I think that anybody who's listening to it, if there were three things that you could do in life, I think that's the thing. You need to be able to be an avid reader, be someone who can write well and speak well. And I found that most people can do those things. They generally have a certain level of success in life.
Yeah. So these three things: reading, writing, and was it the third one? Speaking. Are things we need to encourage our people to do, starting with self-taught, okay, and then follow that up with gathering more information, because to me there is nothing new under the sun. Okay, so anything you want to delve into, somebody somewhere has delved into it before, and all you need to do is to find those people, find their books, pick up the book, read the books. Hey, it makes things a lot easier. Okay, so we need to encourage our young people to read, and when we read, then the argumentation will be more structured, because you're
not coming from ignorant places.
Exactly. Your arguments, you refer to this person says this person says this. I agree with this, I don't agree with this. And this is why. Okay. So I've seen that unfortunately, people who don't read, when they debate with people who do, they get angry. They get angry because the other person can speak their mind and then back it up with this person, that person, that person. And then the other side has only me. Okay. Now, we like we said earlier, the foundation of, for me, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the foundation of our development is on the path of knowledge, education.
You're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't think you're wrong. What I like to say to that is that we just need to rethink what education is. Again, it has nothing to do with school. It has nothing to do with going to get a degree. That's what people get wrong. Yeah. So when you think about education, people are like, you're thinking a degree. No, you're not thinking about a degree. Education is something that you do every day in your life. With every single knowledge that you have. Think about it this way. Everything that you see in the world is you building a set of frameworks, experiences that will add to your knowledge and your worldview. And there are two types of those things. There are things that you are consciously aware of, things that you're unconsciously aware of. They are all affecting you at the same time. The education is what you do with those things. Like you have the tools to select, to say that this one is trash and I'm allowing this one in. And then using that to do something. I think that's the education. Then if we frame the mindset of people so that they can view this as the education that they need, it's better than what we have come to know as like go to school, get a degree, and all of that.
Yeah, very, very good, very good. When we had a conversation last week or 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that you want your podcast to reflect a Pan-African flavor. Okay. Good. I hear a lot of young Africans express the Pan-African vision. Okay. But I'm not sure they themselves embrace the idea in reality. Okay. Because I tell you, I communicate with a lot of young Africans from across the continent. And yes, they say they speak the word Pan-Africa all the time. But I don't really see it. I don't see that Pan-African vision in their actions. Okay. So what's your Pan-African vision, and are you taking action to make it a reality?
Okay. I think that's a very good question. Like you say, a lot of people do a lot of talk. I think that Pan-Africanism is an essentially good thing, especially in our world of economic blocks, right?
Okay.
The reason why the UK right now is struggling, and you know this, right, is even though as great as the UK, as great as the Great Britain is, they are struggling out of an economic block as great as the UK is. The reason is there is strength in numbers. There is just strength in numbers. And we have a shared commonality of history, of ancestry that embraces us to come together to build our stance in the world, because we have for a very long time been marginalized, been victimized. But to your question, I think that thinking Pan-African things about embracing African identity and being unapologetic about it. But more also in your actions, it's about having a vision that transcends your country and having a vision that embraces the continent at scale. For example, I try as much as possible, even though like we discussed that there is an affinity of people in Ghana to want to come to my podcast, but I try as much as possible to get different views, because the people in Ghana, they've already communicated with so many Ghanaians. They need to know what other people think, right? Is the intersection of other cultures and the unism to a point in those things that helps us to come together. So that's a little step, at least I am taking my podcast to make sure that I bring an intersection of diverse African thoughts and truly stay African in that mindset and framework, because there are a lot of people who have gotten in touch with me and said, I want to come on your podcast. And those people were not Africans, they were white people. And I'm like, yes, what you are doing is great, but it doesn't serve the vision that I have. And yes, I don't have the biggest platform in the podcast in the world. And probably your story and your company or your whatever you're doing will give me traction But as far as I'm concerned, I would take the vision that I have over whatever benefits that your audience could give to me. And so that's like a small step I'm taking. But I'd like to like take a certain framework of Kwame Nkrumah, right? Which people, Kwame Nkrumah, Muammar Gaddafi, which people at a point came to hate. But to be truly Pan-African means to be wanting more for the African continent. And that means that to be ambitious beyond your country, right? And because we are so much tied into nationality sometimes, we see that as a threat. But we need people who are strong and confident enough to want to aspire to that African vision, right? And those people, when you see them, you are like, maybe these people are crazy. Like how, it turned out for Gaddafi, for example. But those are people who are really bold to move beyond we want a Pan-African Africa, we want a united Africa, we want an economic bloc, blah, 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 and actually going forward, bringing countries together. But it always turns out as if that those people have an intent to rule other people. But we need people who are saying that I want to drive innovation across the continent, because we have big blocks like Nigeria, at least when it comes to population, right? If Nigeria could fix itself politically, it behoves on Nigeria in a Pan-African framework to hold Malawi, even though Malawi is not in West Africa, to hold Sudan, to bring those people along with them, because that's what Kwame Nkrumah did when he gained independence. Between the time 1957 to 1965, before Nkrumah died, the number of countries that gained independence was as a result of the wave of Kwame Nkrumah's activism, brought Guinea, brought Senegal, and inspired other countries like Nigeria to move forward and get independence. So that's what I think it's all about. And it takes audacity and to move beyond the thinking and go all out. Like as an entrepreneur, when I am thinking about an idea, and as a Pan-Africanist in that framework, I ask myself, how does it benefit? What is the scalability of this throughout the continent? And I think that is a beneficial framework, because most of us, we like to build for our small cities, our small towns. But the Pan-African thought is how you can immerse your thinking to affect the entire continent, because the entire continent is intrinsically linked together.
Great. See, thinking about it with the way you are thinking about it, it's fantastic. Okay. I think commerce, economics, if we focus on that, will help the countries of Africa come together. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the difficulty is, unfortunately, the kind of leaders some of our countries have. Okay. That's a big issue. I won't go into that on this podcast today. But see, one of the biggest thing that I see in this drive of Pan-Africanism is something that most of us do not realize as true. And that is, Africa is the most diverse continent in the world. Okay. And we have maybe up to 3,000 different languages on the continent.
Yes.
Okay. And that may be that's maybe because we have close to 3,000 different tribes. Okay. I would say this unfortunate. We were not in the place to what's the word now? Come together. See, in civilization, okay, different people meet, maybe by trade, or maybe a particular group of people, their leaders get into their head that they want to conquer the whole region, and they go on conquests, okay? And they conquer vast region, and then they bring them together under that one king or ruler. And then in time, even though they were once speaking different languages, 50 different languages, in time, all of them will be speaking one language. Okay. Unfortunately, Africa, by the time the European colonization happened, we haven't gone that far into integrating ourselves. Okay. So by the time the colonization happened, we're still small tribes speaking different languages. Each tribe is still so tied with their heritage. See, I know a little bit more about European history. My father was an European history teacher. So as a young child, I have been fascinated by European history. I read a lot of it. See, yes, Europe was like that, or not as diverse, but see, conquest enabled them to come together. Okay. And now they have fewer languages, fewer tribes. Okay. Because of the what was the word now? From the integration. Okay. We as Africans, we haven't done our integration. See, today, I don't know how many languages you guys have in Ghana, but in Nigeria, we have almost 300.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why when it comes to politics, everybody is talking about his tribe. We're not talking about Nigeria.
Yeah. So let me zero in on that. I think that's a very interesting thought. Maybe a little unpopular too, but interesting. So I think that there may be a couple of things, right? First, it's not as if that there were not potential for the coming together, even through war and conquest, because, for example, we had big Malian empire, old Ghana Empire, Songhai. Those were big empires that really congregated a lot of people, right? But the fall of those empires, I don't necessarily think it's a pre-colonial thing. I don't think that we were not ready when the white people came. I think that, for example, Ashanti Empire in Ghana was still thriving before the British rule. And if you understand Ghana's history, you understand that there's a lot of pushback in Ghana's independence from the Ashantis because they still thought of themselves as a dominant force. So that obviously comes together as a clash when it comes to national identity. But I agree with you on the point of national identity. I think that most African countries, the reason why we have recurrence of wars, what we saw in Uganda, what we are seeing in Congo, what we see in Ivory Coast, what we see even now in the North, it is, I mean, now what you see in Nigeria is kind of, unbelievable. And the North-South dynamic, all of that is founded on a rushed independence. And I don't say that independence is about it. Independence is a good thing. We should have gotten independent, all of that. However, there was not an intentionality, in my viewpoint, around the building of a nation. So we have a lot of countries, we don't have a lot of nations in Africa. We have a lot of countries, we don't have a lot of nations, because of that particular diversity you talked about. There had to be more intentionality and a lot of egos put aside, right? And intentionally coming together to build a national identity that has a core. Most countries, and I've said this about Ghana so many times, Ghana is seemingly on a lost cause, because what is Ghana searching for? We don't know. We don't know, like what is, if Ghana was an individual, what is its mission in life? We don't know. And that is something that plagues a lot of African countries. We don't have a united nation. We don't. We just don't. And we see that in allegiances to smaller tribes and all of that. And I've talked about this very deeply, and I'm very concerned about it. But I feel like we lost an opportunity at independence, because at that time was a reconvening of the national identity, and the people who gained independence for us should have done a better job at bringing together a national identity. And it's much more difficult to do now, to be honest, because it's been a long time. But if we as a people, we care about progress, we need to find a way to make that happen. And I'm going to throw some ideas that I've thought about, that it may start with embracing some of the tribes and believing that in some weird way it will come together. So let me give you an example. I believe that democracy in Africa as it's practiced right now, it just goes against the framework of the African multi-tribal, ethnic dispensations that we have as countries. So we see a lot of fights for political power based on tribal, ethnic allegiance. We can solve that perhaps if we decentralize our countries and bring back the power of that decentralization to the people who live in those particular cities, not in the way that Lagos has done, like Nigeria has done it in federal states, even though I think I like that federal state idea more, to be honest, than what I see in Ghana. But we tie that to a certain kind of traditional allegiance, because it's funny, even people who are religious people, who are Christians today, they still respect their chiefs. They are not going to allow you to disrespect their chiefs. If you find a way to mirror that back again, so that there is a certain kind of accountability tied to where we come from, and we are doing well where we come from. When we are building our small cities based on our tribes and all of that, I feel like then we don't feel so much pressure to gain the
federal power,
to become a president, so that to fight for the power, because that's what happens. We fight for the power to come and serve our people in the end. So if we are already as a people, and this is a very, as you can see, it's an incomplete thought, but if we fight for our people individually, I feel like it will be easy for us to come together, and then we can build the units there. We can build the units from there, and then but I really agree with your sentiment.
Yeah. See, Isaac, your thought, right? Like you said, it's an incomplete thought. You see, something we need to continue thinking through. Okay, it's not easy. Okay, it's not easy. We need to think about it and get people who have those thoughts together, come together, talk about it as extensively as possible. Okay. Now, this is just within the country. Okay. So now,
exactly.
Now take it across borders.
Doing that across countries.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, this is the thing I have experienced when I talk to Africans from different countries. Okay. See, some people from certain countries do not like you because you come from here. So nothing you say to them will make sense just because you come from a certain country. Okay. And there are a lot of people like this.
Yeah.
So the Pan-African vision will not happen.
That's a long way to go.
Yeah.
That's a long way.
Okay. Yeah. So see, we need, but one thing is clear. Economics. Exactly. Economics.
But at the end of the day, yeah, it falls on that.
Will solve a lot of problems. Okay. If you bring value to let's say your mortal enemy. If you bring value to them,
still willing to come. They are still willing to come.
They will trade with you. Okay. So trade is the answer in this generation. Okay. Now, if people had thought about this maybe 300 years ago, okay, they could have done some conquering to interact to integrate different tribes together. But now we can't do it. Okay, it's okay. We're more civilized, so we need other means, and the best means to me is trade.
I agree with you.
So trade, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you bring something that somebody, your mortal enemy wants, and you bring it with a good price, they'll buy it. Okay? And by trading together, you will be building better relationships. So so let's hope. Now, when it comes to trade in Africa, the connection, the travel, the transportation is the biggest issue.
Exactly.
Okay,
and supply chain.
Yeah. So see, there's no direct. How many direct flights do you have from Accra to Lagos? Accra to
I can't tell, but I'm traveling on Sunday to Rwanda, and I can tell you that it cost me £700.
Okay, you see
that is ridiculous.
Exactly.
That is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Rwanda.
Rwanda, see, that travel should not cost you more than $200 at most.
I mean, there are cities in Europe, as you know, that you can travel like 5 countries, $100.
See, if I want to go to Italy, I'll go to Italy through and fro, maybe at a certain time, £50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See,
these are the things that hinders that Pan-African vision. One is the diversity, and 2, the connection. Travel. So these are things we need to take care of before we can meaningfully start talking about Pan-Africanism. Otherwise, we're just talking. See, this is the reason why it has been talk from the 60s.
A long time.
Talk, exactly. Just talk. Unfortunate. Okay, so it's interesting.
I think that, like to end on that, like you see, we need a lot of well-meaning people, right? Like we are just thinking about it now. We seem like we want a solution, and we seem like, we both thought about it. We are thinking about solutions. We need a lot of well-meaning people to be doing that, and people in power to embrace that. And that is why I think that leadership is very important, right?
Yeah.
I think there are two things that are crucial to solving the big problems in Africa. Yes, it's obviously in a very capitalist framework, we need money and leadership. Like money and leadership. Those things are very important because, I mean, if one of our billionaires in Africa says, yo, I care about this problem so much, I'm going to be collaborating people to be building different airlines and all of that, no matter how challenging it is, we can see some progress in there. Like, people don't care so much. That's the thing. People have, I mean, it's not like they don't care at all. They just have other things they care about. Yeah. And we need people who care about it as much as probably we do to be in positions of power and influence.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we talked about earlier, education is for me, I will tell you, education is the joker to solve any problem. Any. Okay. So see, I've heard from young Africans always talking about education is broken. Yes, it's broken. Okay. It's a worldwide problem. Okay. So what do you think about our education, the way it is today? And are we on the path that will take us to the destination we are seeking?
If the question is, are we on the path? No, we are not on the path. This is unfortunate. Yes, if that's the question, it's very easy. I have worked in education for a very long time, by the way. So okay. I started working in education from 2017. So I've worked in education, and while I'm doing my other things, I am a very multi-potentialist person. So while I'm doing my other things, I'm still very engaged in other education things. So I mean, just recently, I was working as a country manager for an education organization, all of that. So I am very constantly thinking about education.
Yeah.
5 things that I really want to change somewhere in Africa. And I think those are very big problems. We still need to fix agriculture. We still need to filter our health, right? Especially mental health in our generation. I think it's a very big problem.
Yeah.
We need to look at education. We need to look at technology. So like those are things that I am very passionate about. So education is very important. I think that the way we think about education is just wrong. That's the thing. One of my favorite things to watch is a dramatism. That is a TV series that the National Geographic did around 3 people. It's called Genius. So season 1 is Albert Einstein. Season 2 is Pablo Picasso. Season 3 is Aretha Franklin.
I've watched it. That series.
Yeah. Yeah. So season 1, Albert Einstein, is one of my favorite TV series to watch. It's like something that I come back to watch all the time. Now, the book tells the story itself, but the dramatism helps for a lot of who can read, right? So I'm just saying that if you can read, go with the thing. And it's very intriguing, so you enjoy it, I hope.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you will find for a very long time is that the people who have become successful, they've always viewed education out of its conventionality, because the conventional education, as good as it is, it's not for everyone. And that's something that I have come to the conclusion. It's not for everyone. But what we need to do very well is to teach people how to think. No matter what, we need to teach people how to think. And I have been struggling with this for years. And I think that ultimately, one of the things that I think that I would do that would be most influential is to write a book or do something that can teach people a very simple way to build a thought process, a framework that can guide your life. Because I think that's one of the greatest gifts you can give to anybody. Because all the problems that we are in is just because we are people who outsource their thinking to other people. People who are not able to think for themselves. And that is what education really is. When you go to school, you are building the foundations of thought to the extent where you can become an independent thinker. So when we say problem solving is not any complicated thing. Problem solving is there is a wall behind you, in front of you, and you need to overcome it. What do you do? your mind starts kicking in, and the vast experiences that you have leads you to take the next action. And while experience is good, I think that the most powerful thing education can do, it gives you the tools. So how I think about it is this way, that knowledge, right? Education is processes, tools, and then the knowledge. So for example, someone can go to medical school for 6 years, and then they teach them all the brilliant, they become a doctor, they are qualified. But the truth is that they can never teach you enough for all the complications that exist in the world. It's just not possible, because it's just going to become this crazy, all of that. Now, you need to use the framework of the tools that you have to now put those knowledge into the toolbox. If you put that knowledge into the toolbox and you start using your tools on it, you realize, okay, well, even though I know this is how it is done in this particular case, when you do this and you do this, I think there are more chance of success. And so we have a thinking toolbox that will help us in different scenarios, because that's, unfortunately, our education as it is, right? It would be perfect if our world was predictable.
Okay.
If we knew what was going to happen tomorrow, our education system is perfect. Like, we don't even have to worry, because you are taught in school that, oh, 1 + 1 is 2. You are just expecting 1 + 1, and it's going to be 1 + 1, and you say it's 2. Like, it will be perfect. But the fortunate thing is that the life is so unpredictable that what we are learning tomorrow, what we are learning today, is going to turn out in such a different way that we are not expecting. That we need to have a thinking process that can use the tools the knowledge that we have to go over it. And that's what is missing in education. I mean, I won't sit here and say that I am a better thinker or whatever, but when I see people, they struggle to make the very simplest decision in their lives. That's the problem. They struggle to make the very, very simple decisions in their life. And that affects their rate of success. That's what I see. Like, if you are somebody who, like me, likes to talk to people, I see people struggle with the very simplest of decisions because they don't have the tools to kind of put together all the things they are seeing and say, okay, this is what to do. They are overwhelmed. Most people are overwhelmed with the experiences that come at them, the information that come at them every day, and they lack a toolbox to group them, to analyze them, to synthesize them, and then to make a decision. And I think that is how our education should be focused. We should forget about all of these things. It is very important that we teach people to code. But I have seen so many people who have gone to school for 4 years and cannot do anything with their computer science degrees, because the knowledge is there. But when they come out of school, they see that, wow, the problems in the world, they have changed and the knowledge can't fit anymore, but they can't think. They can't think, how do we revise our notes to meet that problems? That's what I'm saying. Our education system will be so great if the world was static and not evolving, but the world is constantly evolving. And the only way to be able to beat it is to think in accordance in that evolution. And that's something that we are missing in education. I don't have the answers to that problem yet, but to me, that is what it is. And education has not transformed in a very long time. We need to find a way to do that. We just need to find a way to do that. I was telling you about how, for example, the mentors of, even in Albert Einstein time, there are a lot of mentorship that does that. So for me, and I've seen that work, I don't know the science behind mentorship, but it works. If you're around a certain group of people who think a certain way, it rubs off you. And it's difficult for me to understand the science behind it. But if each one of us, because I don't know the answers to it, if the rudimentary thing we can do is that each one of us who say they are doing better in the thinking department, in the education department, can just take some other person and just mentor them, I see that people, it just wraps off them. That is why, for example, I feel like it's beyond the school. It's more like a cultural thing. Because our people in Africa would spend all our lives.
Now they are coming to
they will be lazy and all of that. They suddenly come to Europe and their perspective has changed. Not because they went to university when they went there, but the environment, it does something to them. So we need to think about it like, say, I don't have the answers. But from my experience, if one person, each one of us, is finding a way to surround ourselves with people who are not as good as us, it just eventually wraps up them.
Wow. When you talk about many people are not able to make simple decisions. I don't know about Ghana. Okay, so I won't assume, but with at least two of the major tribes in Nigeria that I know, in my culture, we are taught respect for elders is very, very important. And I agree it is. But I think we overdo it to the extent that you bring a problem beyond the knowledge of the elders, okay? And then you are waiting for the elders who do not know anything about that problem to guide you to solve it.
Exactly, to validate you even in the first place.
Okay, so what I see is that many young people have been taught to follow the direction of their parents or their uncles or their aunties. So when they have a problem, they run to auntie, they run to uncle, they run to their parents, even though the problem they have is a modern problem. The parents or uncles do not have information about it. And they can help you.
Yes.
That's one. Okay. Secondly, you mentioned that we need to learn how to think. That's why I have this Think Big for Africa.
Yeah.
See, ability to think, the ability to think, it's fundamental to success of any kind.
Exactly.
Now, you may take the wrong decision 6 out of 10, but as long as you have the ability to think, when you find out that you have made a mistake, you have the ability to rethink and correct it.
You know, the reason why I'm keeping nodding my head is that just a few days I was giving that similar analogy, that the best coaches in the world are the ones that are able to make in-game substitutions and changes while the match is going on.
Yeah.
So we always like to say that learn from your failures. And I'm like, if you have to wait to fail every time and learn from it, it might be too late for you. You need to be able to learn through the failures, not from them after they've happened. That's one of the things that is very important, like you said, to be able to be that kind of coach, right? Like, because you're coaching your life, so you understand that you are making the substitutions in real time because you are seeing the chaos happening, but you know that these are the things. That's what people cannot do. People cannot make adjustments, right, within the time, and they get suffocated in it and they drown. And that is it. Because failure is going to come. That one is like failure is a constant. It's one of the most constant things in life. It's one of the most constant things. You're going to face it. But if you have the tools to be able to make adjustments, you always go through it. And that is it. And that comes even beyond thinking some of them, like resilience, for example. It's a very important skill in life, because when the difficulties come, and they would come, how do you hold on tight so that you can pass through the storm and have that resilience? But at the core, it's taught. Because even when you are resilient, it's all about your next step. You can be resilient enough to endure, but if you don't know your next step to take, your resilience will not be able to amount to much. So I really agree with that sentiment. It's like that. It's about the coach who makes in-game substitutions and able to see what the other team is doing and make changes that would affect the game. Because if you always have to wait till the game has ended, you've lost your 3 points, and that's it.
Yeah. See, when it comes to education, yes, we need to make a lot of adjustments in our educational institutions. From the primary school, secondary school, we need to make a lot of adjustments. But see, when it comes to thinking, I think one of the things I learned from my father, he was because he doesn't practice actually. He used to teach history, and he loved philosophy. So as a teenager, a young teenager, we used to do this, what's it called? Socrates parlor game. I think so. Socrates parlor game. It's logic. You know, when he asks a question and then you answer with logic. You know, all that. See, logic and science are the best tools. Logic will teach you how to think, okay, and argue your point, and that's what science uses, okay. That methodical process.
Exactly.
See,
exactly.
These are the things.
But you know that? Do you know that? I'm sorry to cut you. Do you know that the average university student in Africa has not come to this conclusion?
Well,
the one that you're coming to now.
I learned it. I learned it at home as a 13-year-old boy from my father.
Exactly. Yes, and exactly. You see the point I was making about the mentorship. That is why we need to take people under our wings and just teach them, right? Just teach them, because this argument that you are making, it's a very simple thing, that science didn't come out of the thin air.
No.
Science is not a really complicated thing. Science is just a method. I feel like people don't get that. People don't get that science is a method. It's a method of thinking, basically. And the method says that to be able to think around these set of problems, you need to start from point 1, go to point 2, point 3. That is it. It's not a big deal. So how do we build internal thought processes? So for most people, it comes down to when there's a problem, what do you do? What is your step 1? What is your step 2, step 3? Obviously, in your life, you wouldn't go back and say, right, step 1, but it has to be internalized so that when it happens, your systems start kicking in and it's working, because that's it.
Unfortunately, when you tell people to read philosophy, for example, a lot of our people have negative influence from philosophy. Okay, they think anything philosophy is against their religious belief. It's unfortunate. See, our people do not even want to try out things or even understand what it is before a lot of us will push it aside. And that's another topic I don't want us to go through because it's a big one. Okay,
Yeah.
It's a big one, but it's a big issue holding our people back from learning the things they need to learn. I don't know how we get around it. It's one of our big issues we need to face. So Isaac, what is your advice to fellow Africans to help them contribute their quotas to develop their communities?
One of the things that I hate to reference, because it's a very old theory, but it comes out very importantly, is Maslow. Maslow talks about how we as human beings, and even Freud talks about how human beings we always kick back to our basic instinct.
Yeah.
And so the average human being wants to have food. The average human being wants to have sex. Those are motivations that are instinctual. And I always say that we live in a very polarized world where there are multiple viewpoints about a lot of things. But
okay.
No matter our viewpoints, we can't beat biology.
Yeah.
That one you can't beat biology, and you can't beat evolution, you can't beat history. No, you can't. Like, no matter how social revolutionist you want to be, those things, they will fight back. Because they were here billions of years before you came, and our existence cannot change that. I'm bringing up that because most people will not be able to make any change because they don't have their basic needs. And even when they have their basic needs, you have to fix yourself before you can fix anybody else. That's something that you have to understand. Like, you have to grow to become that person, right? Where you have a certain kind of, people disagree with this, by the way, but this is also the viewpoint of Jordan Peterson, who is also a very controversial figure.
Oh, so but Jordan Peterson. Okay. Yes, that's interesting. I'm a fan.
But yes, me too. So, by the way, I have had email correspondences with Jordan Peterson.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So what I would like to say to the average young person, I don't know whether the person is listening to me, is that if you are unfortunate enough to live in an environment where your basic needs are difficult to find, I think that there is one equalizer. The one equalizer is ambition.
Okay.
It's not even taught. It's not taught. I don't think it's not taught because, like, I think that for the most part, you need to be socialized into thinking. But I don't think ambition, you need to be socialized into ambition. I think it's a choice. I think ambition is a choice. And so what I would like to say to any person is to choose ambition. I think that when you choose ambition, although it's a very difficult path, when you choose ambition, your entire viewpoint of the world changes. You build strength, you build muscle to face the world. Like Jordan Peterson again will say that, it will in actually Carl Jung. In Carl Jung, it's like facing the demon, right? Choosing ambition is to like face the demon, right? That is the forgotten it, but that is the archetype. The archetype is that most people don't do that. Most people don't face the demon. Most people are looking for like soft life in our balance. Now, like, most people don't want to do the difficult thing. But the best thing that you can do in your life, for me, I think, is to choose the difficult part, especially if you come from underprivileged backgrounds, because choosing the difficult parts, for me, builds your character, elevates your, it's the fastest way to self-growth. And if you care about bringing people out of poverty, choosing ambition is what is going to allow you to build the frameworks that other people can easily build on. Like, think about the Dangotes that we have.
Yeah.
Their generations are not going to be poor, because obviously Dangote's grandfather was at a point some of the big richest people. But that's my point, basically. When we build the foundations, our generations are going to make it easier. You're going to give them a more easier route. So choosing ambition is what I would like to do, because the reason why I'm saying this is that the average young person now wants to choose the easiest way to success.
That's what
I don't think it works.
That's what unfortunately, that's what the world preaches. Okay. And when those people who choose an easy life, then when they don't achieve that, then they blame someone. Then it must be the fault of someone, not themselves.
Exactly.
It must be the fault of that person because he has power. It must be the fault of that person because he's from a rich family. It must be the fault of that person. See, that's one thing I see in the West that Africa cannot afford. That ideology of wanting things easy. The truth is that the matter is that nothing worthwhile comes easy. Okay? So if Africa, that is still at the bottom, trying to crawl its way out, if the people choose easy life, that means they will stay down in the dungeons for longer.
For a very long time. Yeah.
So I agree with you. Ambition. Okay. If more people choose ambition and work to achieve those things they want, yes, on their part, they will affect people around them. A lot of people around them.
And I think that's the way to live life. You need to live life to expand your territory. Like, your life should be able to affect more people. And the only way to do that is by choosing to do the difficult things in life.
Exactly.
Like, yes, you can live a life where you are basically cruising to it, taking decisions where you're not going to be affected. Like, all the things that are going to the world, it doesn't touch you, it doesn't affect you. But you will live your life, and I feel like at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, you won't feel fulfilled. And I feel like you will be very fulfilled if you took a very difficult path, as this poet, the road hardly taken, written by this guy. What's his name? What's his name?
I have the book. I can't remember his name up there. Yeah.
So,
that's a great book. I recommend. See, it's called The Road Less Traveled.
Less taken. Less traveled.
The Road Less Traveled. It's a fantastic book. I recommend it to anyone. See, it's
so essentially, people should take the road less traveled. Yes.
Yeah. So, Isaac, it's 2022. In the next 20, 30 years, what kind of Africa do you want to see?
Let me answer this realistically. But the question is, what do you want to see? So it has to be optimistic. Obviously,
well, maybe
I'm not an optimistic person. I am. I think that I'm not one of the most optimistic people you ever meet.
Okay.
But because I'm an entrepreneur, I back that with pragmatism.
Okay.
Because as an entrepreneur, if you lose sight of the reality that's happening now, no matter your optimism, you're going to fail.
Okay.
So you need to back that up with pragmatism. In the next 20 years, 30 years, optimistically, I would wish that Africa had the turn that China took, which basically took 20 years also, right? Like, not 20 years exactly, but at least, from the 90s, we saw that
Africa has been on the path from the late 70s.
70s, yes.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So technology is something that can leapfrog us, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we need to fix internet. So we need to find a way to fix internet. Yeah, so that, more people get internet, more people get access to knowledge. But as I've said before, I don't value knowledge as much as other people do. I value thinking, the frameworks and the tools to use the knowledge. You can have all the knowledge in the world and still not be able to think. I think there's a huge difference between that. We need to find ways to people to know how to do with the knowledge so that when they get the knowledge, they know what to do with it. But I want to see the turnaround that China had in Africa, optimistically. The only thing is China did that under communist rule, and they did that under a unit. Africa neither practice communism, neither are we a unit, as we've said, right? We have all these tribes and all of that. So I don't know how you're going to do that. I really don't know.
It's impossible. Except we beat everybody in shape, and that would be disastrous.
Yeah. You see, I mean, I understand you very much. Like, some of the things you can't say out loud, but I understand what you are saying. But I mean, you asked a question about what I think will happen, and I hope that is what I know it won't happen, but I wish it will happen.
Well, it could happen. It could happen.
But the pathway to that is going to be very difficult, very, very challenging. But I like to, when I'm asked questions like that, I like to just think about what I personally would do and not worry so much about what is going to happen to the continent as a whole, because I feel like if I succeed, and this might be a little optimistic, and this is where maybe my optimism fails me, but I feel like if I succeed, I'll be able to make a lot of impact at a Pan-African level if I succeed. And so I would rather be more concerned about doing the things that I can control. I can control my decisions, my life, right? I can't control the lives of 1 billion Africans. And so it's very difficult to challenge that. But I know that every single day, I know that if I work hard enough, if I'm also obviously lucky enough, I could build a multi-billion-dollar company. And if I build a multi-billion-dollar company, I could employ thousands of people. If I become that rich, I could leverage my power to make institutional changes in government.
Ooh.
So those are macro.
Now this is the part. See, Isaac, we need to talk again, because you have said some things that we need to talk about more. See, what you just said, as an entrepreneur, as a billionaire entrepreneur, having the power to affect policy at a country level. See, this is the thing that I will tell you we don't want for powerful, rich people to be able to do. Yeah. So, because if you can do that, who says in 10 years after that you'll be one deciding who will be the president, who will be the chief judge? Hello. And that's what we don't want to do. See, we actually want a society where, yes, entrepreneurs can be very successful, be able to build multi-billion dollar companies that will affect the society, create jobs, create solutions for problems, live a lavish lifestyle if they choose. But then we don't want those people, to be able to control the government.
So here's what I have to say about that. I get your point, but I think that now you are moving towards more idealism. What you're saying is an idea, but you are being idealistic but not pragmatic, because we both know the reality is rich people control nations. That is a fact. Whether we like it or not.
You said that, I disagree. In the West,
well, that's how I saw. Okay. Well, see, in the West, right? In the West,
they don't.
In the West.
They are trying to, okay. They are trying to, okay, but they don't.
I would say that the collective power of those few individuals are huge.
Yeah, of course.
And in a lot of ways, they change a lot of ways that human beings behave and think.
Yes,
right.
But not by controlling government. They control the individuals by their actions.
So I mean, I do not wish to necessarily control governments. That's not the end game. But for me, what I'm trying to say is that power and influence is very important. And from again, this is my worldview, right? I've built this worldview from everything I've seen in the world.
Okay.
And then I've made a decision that this is a part of that. So I'm probably wrong, but I'm probably right. Who knows? Yeah, but my worldview has taught me that
you're going to be a Lex Luthor.
No. My worldview has taught me that power and influence is very important in the world.
Yeah.
But it has also taught me that the people who are rich and powerful, they care about some things. And so if the people who are rich and powerful in the world, they care about democracy, they are going to support democracy.
Yeah, but we don't need them to be able to influence things.
Okay? Yes, I'm coming. If they care about strip clubs, they are going to invest in strip clubs. Yes. No, that's how it happens. For me, the pragmatic way, and I get your idealism and I share with it, I just don't believe that is going to happen. So for me, the pragmatic way is that I find myself in the club where the game is being played, and I am able to play the game according to my own rules and also do the things I care about. So that if I care about education, I have $1 billion to actually solve it. Because the problem is not that there's not enough money in the world. The people in Arab with their oil money, they can change a lot of things, but you know what they care about? They care about buying football clubs. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't stop them from buying football clubs.
Yeah.
So
that's
can complain that, exactly.
That's commerce.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So what do you care about? If I care about education and I'm rich enough,
you're allowed to.
I would invest in that. And
now, my difference is this: if you say you do what you care about education, you care about health, you care about this, and then you put your money into those things, perfect. Okay, but
yeah, if you care about politics, you put your money in there too.
Well,
if you care about
that's where we disagree.
No. I mean, because you are being more idealistic. Rich people put their money in politics all the time, and whether it's a bad thing or not, I'm not focused on whether it's a bad thing or not. I'm focused on, is that a thing people do? Okay. Yes, people do it.
Okay.
How do you solve it? You don't solve it by argumentation, to be honest. That is where argumentation doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem is competition. What solves the problem is competition. That's where I think, what solves the problem is competition. So that and I'm going to go political now, if there are a couple of billionaires behind Atiku in Nigeria, right? But they say Peter Obi is a guy who can really change the fortune of Ghana in Nigeria. They're going to invest their money in Peter Obi. Do you get my point? And make sure that he has the ass, because whether we want to believe it or not, the reality is that politics is money. Somebody has to be investing in that guy.
Well, see,
who is that person?
The next time you're on this podcast, all these things you just brought up today, we'll talk about them. All right. So Isaac, it's been a wonderful time. You've talked about so many things that young Africans need to listen to and think about, and that's fantastic. Thank you very much. So let's finish this by you telling my audience where they can find your podcast.
Yeah. So the name of the podcast is Change Africa Podcast.
Yeah.
And as I said, we have 1 hour conversational style like this with inspiring Africans all over. You can find Change Africa Podcast anywhere you get your podcast. So any podcast app, we just said Change Africa Podcast.
Yes, I found it on Spotify.
Yeah. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, everywhere.
All right, Isaac.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for Ekene for bringing me to the podcast. It's been a very wonderful conversation. I'm usually the one who's asking the question, and I've gotten to express myself too, and I really appreciate it. Thank you
very much.
And hopefully we can have more conversations in the future.
Good. Thank you very much, guys. We're out. Bye.